What's up, kids? Today we are going to do another technique video. Today we have some wild salmon fillets and I'm going to show you guys how to cook these. So here's what we're working today. These are 4-ounce-ish wild-caught coho salmon fillets. The reason that you really want wild-caught as opposed to farm-raised is because with farm-raised they're going to be feeding it grain, and as a result the fish don't develop the same omega fats, which is one of the most important nutrients in salmon. So try to get wild-caught, even though it's a few dollars more. You're already, making an investment with salmon, so go ahead and get the good stuff. All I've done here is just cut these into about 4-ounce fillets, and they're already pre-boned at the store for me. So I'm going to go ahead and head over to the stove and we'll cook them up. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is coat a large, this is a cast iron pan with grease. So this is coconut oil. I like to use either coconut oil or olive oil. And then we're going to go ahead and bring this to medium-high heat, and I'm going to show you guys another trick while that pan heats up. Alright, so there are basically two tricks to pan frying fish well so that it doesn't stick to the pan. The first is start with the highest heat, even close to smoking. The reason is if the heat isn't high enough, the fish will stick to the pan. You end up pulling it off, and it looks like crap and falls apart. So that's the first thing. The other thing to do is to pat dry the fish before we put it in the pan. So I'm just going to take a clean, this is just a clean kitchen towel, and I'm just going to go and pat dry the fish. Two easy tricks, way better results. Alright, now we have the pan to temp. I can just start it seeing the smoke, but it's not smoking like crazy. That means that it's perfect and that when we put the fish on the pan, they're not going to stick to the pan. So I'm just going to go ahead and start laying the fillets in the pan. You can hear the grease. You want to make sure that the grease is evenly coating the pan, particularly since this isn't a non-stick pan. And I'm going to go ahead and place the second fillet in. And place the third fillet in. It's always better to have a bigger pan rather than a smaller pan. With too small of a pan, the food can stick to itself, particularly when you're cooking things that you don't want to mix together like this. You want to give yourself enough space in the pan. So I'm just going to go ahead and let these cook. One of the most important fish tips that I ever got when I was working as a line cook is once you put it down, don't F with it. If you start trying to fiddle with these things, it hasn't yet formed a crust on the bottom, and all you're going to do is tear up the bottom of the fish before it has time to cook. So you want to just let these ride. Literally don't touch them for, I'm going to say, between 3 to 4 minutes. Alright, after about 3 to 4 minutes, I can tell that these are probably cooked enough on the one side. There'll be, you can see the inside liquid of the fish begins to cook into like a white ooze that comes out of the sides. Is one trick. You can also see the brownness on the bottom and see the fish kind of curl up into itself, which is going to let you know that it's probably done enough on that side. So this is not a non-stick pan, which makes things a bit more tricky, but if we've done it right, we can kind of tease these off a little bit with our spatula. You don't have to use your hands if you don't want to, and just simply flip those over, and then we've got a nice even brown coating on that side, a good crust. Just kind of tease this guy off. And then the last guy here. And that's probably the best one there. So I mean, with a pan that's not non-stick, this is about as good as you can hope to get. So they have a nice even brownness on that side, cooked about halfway through. The fish isn't falling apart in the pan. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is cut the heat to low and finish the fish for about, I'm going to say, 4 to 5 more minutes. The reason that you turn it to low is that the pan is already hot enough to form the crust on the bottom, and by the time that it does form that crust with that heat, then you want to go ahead and start cutting the heat, because we're going to actually cook it longer on this side, and if we cook it that long on high, we're going to burn it up. So cut it It'll go ahead and crust up on the bottom, and then it'll finish through in about, we're going to say, 4 to 5 minutes, where we'll come back and have a look. Alright, after about 4 minutes, we're going to come back to these. We're going to go ahead and tease them off again on the bottom with the spatula. They should come off fairly effortlessly. Feels like that one's going to. We'll try this one as well. Let me turn one over so you can see how it looks. So there you have a nice crusted but not overcooked piece of salmon that's going to be cooked. This is probably not completely cooked through. I like to leave it a little bit tender on the inside. I never like to overcook anything, but that's really a nice piece of fish, and it took us, all of 7 minutes to cook that. So I'm going to go ahead and plate these up with my lunch so you guys can see the end result. So this is what I'm going to have for lunch. I just cut up a kiwi, which took all of 10 seconds. This is some thawed organic broccoli florets. To take this out of the bag and put on the plate took an additional 10 seconds. Then I'm just going to take my fish. This is going to be my first meal of the day, so I'm going to have 2 pieces because I'm hungry. Just going to put the first piece there. Take the second piece, place that on top. Then I'm just going to do a little bit of, I got some walnut oil, but you can do, olive oil or another fat. Put that a little bit on the broccoli too. And I'm just going to do a bit of cracked black pepper. And I'm going to do a bit of salt. And there's my lunch. This is not difficult. If you take a few times and master the fish technique, this is something you can duplicate all the time. This is not hard to cut a kiwi up. The broccoli comes right out of the bag like that. So that's less than 10 minutes of effort. We have wild-caught salmon, which is, full of omega fats. There's also great calcium in salmon. We have kiwis. Full of vitamin C, broccoli, which is also has tons of vitamin C and natural calcium. We're getting a good amount of fats and protein, as well as some good natural carbs from our fruits and veg. You're getting a healthy meal, very fast paleo. So there it was, how to pan fry salmon fillets, and I'm James from fastpaleo.com.